Hey everybody, welcome to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
This week we're talking about passion.
Well, living your passion.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a little different than ooh la la passion. We're talking about living your passion. Or maybe it is the same as ooh la la passion.
I don't know. Well, that's what we're going to discuss on this podcast, but it's based on a question we got in from a reader. Mm-hmm. And you have it up. Do you want to read what Frederick wrote in?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say this is from Frederick, but I guess that cat's out of the bag now. Who sent this in? He said, hi guys, I'm enjoying your podcast. Could you please talk about passion in one of the future episodes? It looks like everyone talks about making money following your passions. And after reflecting about it for a long time, I realized that I don't know how to define passion and how to think about passion. Is passion an emotion, a feeling, a state, an interest? What's your definition of passion? So he's already contextualized it. He's talking about the concept of making money from your passion, which I would say is a little different than the ooh la la passion.
Yeah, and that's something that I think most people that are training, like how to make money or how to be successful, it's one of the things they say, if you find what you're passionate about, you're not going to work a day in your life, or you're going to be able to get through the tough times of your business if you're doing what you're passionate about, because you're doing taxes or doing the icky stuff or having to answer customer service emails or taking phone calls from angry whoever. But if you're passionate about it, you're going to have the energy to carry you through whatever that is.
Yeah, the stuff you hate doing.
On the other end.
I think almost every money mastery course I've ever seen, observed, been a part of, listened to, purchased, etc., all of them have this as a core principle: living your passion or making money from your passion. And this is actually something I've personally done some coaching around. I call it achievement coaching. And this is a big deal. People are trying to find out what their passion is so that they can focus on that. And I think a lot of times we graduate from high school. We're supposed to be college bound now. We're supposed to figure out, by our sophomore, junior year sometimes of high school, what it is we want to end up in college for, so we can sort of focus all of our, attention and credits to those courses, and then have it figured out by the time you pick a major in college, and then that's going to be your career for the rest of your life. And when we are in that stage of life, it's so difficult to determine what it is we want to do with the rest of our years that... And when we exit college, it's almost like, well, no, you already had an opportunity to say what you want to do with the rest of your life, so now you got to go do it, right? Like you're $100,000 in debt from college or from a university, and if you didn't pick what your major was, if you picked the wrong one, well, too bad. Now you have to enter the real world and pay back your college debts. So it's as if we get this tiny little brief window to say what it is that we want to do with the rest of our lives. And if we didn't call it right when we were, say, 18 or 19 years old, well, too bad. You got your shot. And now you have to enter the workforce with the rest of everybody else, and if you don't like it, well, too bad. That's what you picked. Well,
and we ask kids all the time, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, so what do you, and it's like, there's one thing you're going to be. The assumption is that you're going to be a fireman and that's all you're going to do, or you're going to be a policeman and that's all you're going to do. Like you ask little kids this and they have usually they have concepts of some kind of public service, like fireman, policeman, stuff like that.
Astronaut.
Scientist, astronaut, something like that. But it is something that it feels like you have one shot, like you're saying, one go of it, and whatever you're going to quote unquote be, that's it. Like you have one movement.
Yeah.
Whereas, I'm thinking about like the baby boom generation and the greatest generation, and when you graduated from high school, a lot of people didn't go to college.
Yeah.
Generations before us, and then the ones that did, they did pick a career, and that was their career until they until they retired when they were 55, 60 years old, whatever the age was. And they got a gold watch from the company and a pension and a retirement party, and that's how they identified themselves with the career they had.
Yeah.
Our generation is not the same. I mean, You've had multiple jobs. I've had multiple jobs, careers, businesses. I mean, you name it. We've both had all this stuff going on.
As we established in a previous podcast, I've had all but the one and related jobs.
We won't say which one that is.
Yeah. I think... Well, it seems to me that, first of all, we really are not super happy about there being a template for our lives anyway. Like this generation, you and I sort of straddle Generation X, Generation Y, or the millennials. And it feels like we're not super duper happy about this idea that that's like that template is, carved out and there is the rut and go find your space in it. Maybe some people are okay with that, but it feels like this is a whole generation of people who see a lot of opportunity. And there's so much, there's been movies made about it. I remember Office Space where the guy is living the basic cubicle, job life, and he's massively dissatisfied and unhappy. What I love about, I won't give it away if you haven't seen the movie. The movie's awesome, by the way. Office Space is a fantastic
It's a comedy.
movie.
It's funny, though.
It's a comedy, and it's a great movie for sort of expressing, the lifestyle that a lot of people feel really internally angsty about, but don't do anything about it, right? Like they're not really proactively changing it. And the main character has a session of, what was it? Some sort of hypnotherapy, right? Like job hypnotherapy or career hypnotherapy. And then suddenly he just has this massive paradigm shift where he realizes that things are not all that important. And then, he behaves toward his job as if it is more of a nuisance than anything else. And, hilarity ensues. What's great about that, though, is that it's definitely seeped into our public consciousness, into our our media, at how dissatisfying our jobs have been. And I think a piece of this might be too that in our parents' generation, my parents are baby boomers, and my dad's a little pre-baby boomer, but they're around that time period, and there was a sense of company loyalty. Like you had loyalty for your company and your company was going to take care of you. And there's just really none of that anymore. Like we as individuals are not loyal to our companies. And it's a chicken or egg scenario. Is it because the companies were disloyal first? They'll outsource jobs to other countries if it helps the bottom line. And so there's no real like sort of symbiotic relationship anymore. It's more of like I'm going to get a paycheck from you for a time. And then when I'm done with you, I'll leave, and you're going to employ me for a time. And when you're done with me, you're going to lay me off. So there's definitely a lack of that sort of old company loyalty, big family in this job institution mentality. And so what has ended up happening, and of course, along with the birth of the internet and along with all of these different opportunities to create media and to have totally different experiences with careers. I mean, you and I have a fully virtual business. Mm-hmm. Like we make money.
A global virtual business. I mean, we work with people on every continent.
Yeah,
except
exactly.
for Antarctica.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And so it's really fascinating to me that, you and I, like, we make our money from working at home and engaging with clients, like you said, customers all over the world. And it really, it's not an easy road to go, right? There's been a lot of starving artist moments in the beginning, and yet it was totally viable. Like it worked. And we're plugged into a community of people who kind of do that for a living. So there's so many opportunities, self-publishing of all sorts of media, getting attention for your blog. There's lots of people who make a pretty good living off of just blogging. So there's a lot of opportunity to self-create a position. And so then this question of doing what your passion is becomes a lot more relevant in our time period, since it's possible. We're not peasant farmers in the Middle Ages, right?
Yeah.
But living their passion wasn't really something they had to think about.
It wasn't that long ago, and people were still alive when they saw their work as kind of a duty. Like, well, I get a job, I get a career to provide for myself and my family or whatever, mm-hmm. and it's more of a duty than a passion. I don't think passion... I think some people thought about passion in the past.
Or enjoyed their jobs.
They enjoyed it. It was something they had an aptitude for. They went into maybe marketing, for example, because they enjoyed, promoting things or getting people to buy stuff or whatever. But it may have not been something, maybe they really want to be a novelist, but the copywriting and marketing was the thing they could do,
Yeah, paid.
Yeah, they figure, well, this is sensible. This is my duty to provide for my family. This is a sensible career. You ever see those movies where, and I see it in real life. I see, parents telling their kids, do something sensible. Oh, you get a degree in that you can't monetize that. You need to get a degree in something sensible.
Yeah.
And that way you can get a job doing this. There's a sense of duty, a sense of honor, a sense of like taking care of. And all those things are great, but like you just said, with technology and all of the benefits we have on a global economy, we have the ability to micro I guess find audiences and find people that resonate with what our passion is, that we can grow businesses and we can have jobs. I mean, people telecommute to all sorts. I have a friend that lives here in Pennsylvania who works for a company in Silicon Valley, and he telecommutes. He lives with his wife and 3 kids. He works out of his home, and it's not a business. He doesn't own his own business. He still works a day job, but he's not driving through San Francisco rush hour traffic to get to downtown, wherever it is, to work for this company. He does it from his home. And that's opening a whole new world. Now he gets to do something and he really enjoys what he's doing.
Right.
He's not wanting to have his own business. He wants to work for this company, but he likes it. He's passionate about it.
We're no longer geographically limited.
Exactly.
And so because we have all these options geographically, technologically, the question of what is my passion? What am I really passionate about doing? That's a really relevant question right now. It's not something that
most people ask, Yeah.
It's not something that previous generations have had the luxury of really truly asking. Some people did if they were super lucky, if they were born in academic families or whatever. And it's not something that's been democratized until recently. And technology has allowed us to democratize it, which is really nice. So now the question of what is my passion, now a lot of people are asking it. And because it's a newer question, I think, a newer relevant question, there doesn't seem to be a lot of, people who are sort of at the forefront of it, helping others go through this process themselves. I think people are trying, and it's really coming online. You can see a lot of wealth creation gurus really trying to assist people with this question. How do I know what my passion is? And I can see why a lot of people would still have a big question mark around it, because it's not really something that, it's not really something that we have volumes of books from 500 years ago about. This is not an old ancient question that, that people have been banding around forever. This is a question with an answer.
Yeah.
And it's not philosophical. It's a question with an answer, and it just happens to be a newer question. So I thought it was a great one. I thought it was a really good one to focus a conversation around.
So I kind of see it as like this big marble block, this idea of passion. Let's see if we can start chipping away and give some definition to this if we can. What are we talking about when we say passion? Are we talking about something you enjoy? And like Frederick was asking, is it an emotion? Is it like how do you get your hands around what your passion is?
Yeah.
Do you have some ideas on this?
Yeah.
Initially, or? Well,
like I said, I've done some coaching with people around this. I call it BHAG coaching, big, hairy, audacious goal. And we talked about maybe talking about BHAGs in a future podcast as well. So I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. That said, the coaching that I've done requires people, when they're trying to create their big, hairy, audacious goal, it requires them to put a lot of thought into what is going to be worth it to me. What kind of goal do I want to create that is worth it to me so much so that when I have sticking points, or like you said, I have to do all that crap that I hate doing, I got to do all this taxes around it, or I've got to outsource, or I have to
learn new skills that I don't like to learn.
Right, and engage with people I don't really want to have to engage with, or I have to sell, or I have to write copy, or whatever it is that you really, truly, personally hate doing. Whatever it is that you have created as your BHAG has to be so important to you, has to hit to such a core of your being that all that other stuff is totally worth it. It's like having a baby, right? Like, it's like, I don't particularly enjoy changing diapers or getting up at 7:30 in the morning to, fix a bottle. And yet I'm not going to let the baby die, right? So I go do that stuff anyway. And that's basically what your passion is it's something that's important enough to you that the outcome of letting it die is unconscionable.
I had a thought just now. So I've noticed that like creative people tend to kind of know what they're passionate, and I don't even know exactly how I'm defining the term passionate, but I kind of it's something when you see it. Like a musician, famous musicians or actors, they started acting or making music or creating or painting or writing books or whatever at a very young age. And I don't see the same for like tax accountants or like insurance salespeople. It's not like some kid at the age of 8 or 9 was like, oh man, I can't wait to get older and sell insurance. That's my passion, is to sell insurance, or my passion to be a tax accountant. But you do see that with like creative things. Have you noticed this? Like the difference between, it seems like creative people tend to begin moving toward what they are passionate about earlier in life than people that end up in non-creative roles. And I'm not saying that those people aren't creative maybe in their own life, but they are. It's not like people like, you know what I mean? Like they're not 12-year-olds going, I can't wait to be a tax accountant someday, and I'm going to start right now doing my dad's taxes this year. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, and I think it's because for creative types, there is a specific impact they want to make. I think that's what they want with, their whatever their art is as they define it. It's not that they want to create art for art's sake. They want to create art to hand it over to somebody else so that it can be appreciated. So there's a connection between themselves and the impact they want to create. I think with somebody who wants to go or who ends up becoming a tax accountant, it's not so much that earlier in life they were saying, I really, really, really want to make sure that people get their taxes done. Right? Like that's the impact that I want to create. And I think that that's an intrinsic part of defining passion. Is a part of passion is the impact that you want to create. It's it's what you want to send out to the world that is lights such a fire under you that you can't imagine ending your days without having created this ripple.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big part of what passion is. I think it can graduate onto bigger things too, but I think that's a piece of passion. However, I will say this. For people who end up becoming tax accountants and maybe, doing it in unconventional ways. Now, we have a tax accountant that he specializes in people who run internet businesses. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a piece of why he's doing what he's doing because he's passionate about it. He wants to make it so that people like us who want to stab ourselves in the face when tax time comes around, he wants to make our lives as easy as possible because he appreciates what we're doing. He believes in it. So I don't want to indicate that somebody who goes into those professions does not have passion or even had a passion early. It's not even so much the modality of how it comes about. It's the idea of what it is that you want to send out to the world.
Yeah. Well, and I think I got to be careful for all you tax accountants listening. Please don't think I'm downing you. I guess it's not that I'm saying that whatever career choice you make, if it's not a creative career choice, you don't have passion or you're not passionate about what you do. I just happen to notice, and it's not just art or those kind of creativity. Like I read Richard Branson's autobiography, Losing My Virginity, and he talks about when he was like, I think 15, he started his magazine. In boarding school, he would go to the payphone and call advertisers to sell advertising for his magazine he was producing and his business he started, Virgin, the Virgin company, basically at the age of 15. And it's just, he got on it. He was like ready to move. He didn't wait to graduate before he started whatever he was going to do. And I think that's the point is what I was saying. It wasn't to separate creative people from non-creative people or people that end up in creative roles later in life or, tax accountant type roles later in life. It's just to say that I've noticed that people that when they kind of have a grammar of passion, whatever that is specifically, that they embrace as soon as they realize they have it. Whatever that is, they're going for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what's interesting about that. And I think it's not that the people that end up with maybe traditional jobs that aren't creative in nature, that didn't hope for those jobs when they were 12, are not passionate people. They might just have still been on a journey of discovery of what that might become someday.
Yeah.
And it's just, we have different timelines in our lives.
Yeah.
Some people get it when they're young, and some people get it maybe when they're older. Some people haven't even found their passion until they retire in their 60s, and all of a sudden they have a whole world open to them now that they've made all their money, raised their kids, and now they're in their later parts of their lives, and it's like they find this new whatever, like passionate thing that they love to do that comes to them later in life. So it's not something you have to have when you're young. I've just noticed it seems to peak younger for people when they're focused on passion.
And in times past, when people didn't get the luxury of determining the job they were going to do or the career they were going to choose with passion, by choosing the thing they're passionate about, a lot of times they would refocus it into things like their family.
Yeah.
And I think people still do that. Not everybody's living their passion necessarily in their career or job. They can focus that passion on their children, and that's the impact they want to have in the world, which is totally fine. However, I think we are specifically talking about in this podcast people who do want to find their passion.
Correct. And
what that looks like for them. So having some definition around that's probably good. So the way that I personally see that is I actually have a model that I call passion, purpose, mission. And this is something that I use in my coaching when people are trying to figure out what it is that they want to be doing for the rest of their life career-wise. And I see them as sort of 3 different stages. When people first become, say, entrepreneurial, or they are trying to figure out what it is, how they want to make the bulk of their money if they do wealth or wealth creation, if that's the direction they want to go. I see the first step as them finding their passion. Now, passion is anything that lights a fire under you. So yeah, that is an emotion, right? Or it's a cluster of emotions. It's a sort of a gestalt of emotion that keeps you really sort of crystallized in this end game. Like, you want to do this thing. It feels so good to do it. It feels so amazing to have accomplished it. I know people who are writers who hate writing, but they love having written. So writing, being a professional writer, is their passion, even though they're not a big fan of doing the act of writing.
Sure.
But they love having written, and they love being a writer. And so that's a passion for them. A lot of the people that I know are fiction writers. Actually, I know a lot of nonfiction writers too. And they really love the impact they have on the world by having people sort of enjoy their creation or gain new insights from their information and their advice. And so they're not huge fans of the process, but they're major fans of the impact. So once again, I think a lot of times people's passion is how they're impacting the world around you. I think getting to the point of having a passion career requires you to see things a little more zoomed out. Like, you've got to be able to zoom out and take in a little bit more territory to be able to see how you are part of the system, how you are going to be creating a ripple effect, how you are going to be impacting the people around you. And so I think the first part in finding your passion is finding the thing that lights a fire under you, that you love doing, that helps you get out of bed every morning, that when you can see the impact for your work, you feel amazing. There's no better high, and it will get you through all of that time when you have to do stuff you hate doing. And I think that's the first stage. I think that's the first stage. So it's not just a simple emotion or any emotion. I think it's a cluster of emotions that all feeds into this pool of I've got to do it. That's really that's your litmus test. Your litmus test for knowing you're doing it right is you got to do it, and you can't stop. Right? It's unthinkable to stop. It is unthinkable for me to stop taking care of my baby, right? It is unthinkable of me to stop doing this thing that I positively love doing. And I'm willing to be a starving artist if need be.
Yeah. I think also, and I'm going to cross-pollinate models here, but when you are thinking about what you're passionate about, or I'm thinking about what I'm passionate about, I also try to identify what reward or intrinsic, I don't know if it's considered a reward mechanism, but how do I measure what I'm going for? So there's a model that we've used before, power, achievement, and affiliation, where some people they have proclivity to go toward one of those types of things when they're deciding what to do with their lives, or that's kind of a motivation for them. Like, they like to be affiliated with people. I would say, like, everybody wants to have impact, but people might want to have impact in different ways. Some people might want to be powerful and lead a company or lead a movement. Other people might want to achieve something and hit milestones along the way. Other people might want to affiliate, have kudos from social accolades and things like this, and status. And there's toward and away motivations for each of these as well. It's really nuanced, but I think it's something to take into account too. And at Personality Hacker, we really try to focus in on the individual and how they're going to go through their life based on their own personality type and what motivates them personally, because everybody's different. And so thinking about some of those things as well, what is it that juices you? And then mixing that with what you enjoy doing. So what's your end game? Is it to be powerful? Is it to be affiliated, have accolades, have social cred, kudos? Or is it to achieve something? That can also play into this idea of passion, I believe, because it's going to help inform the road you end up going down when you're choosing a passion. And I think for me, and I would say passion, by definition, the word passion is an emotional word. It seems, Frederick asked this, is it an emotion? Is it something you feel? I would say yes, it's a feeling. It's something that when you're doing something you're passionate about, you feel visceral. It's juicing. It gives you energy. It's like you are doing this activity and you look at the clock and you're like, wow, I haven't eaten for 8 hours and I'm just in the zone. I'm in flow. I'm loving what I'm doing. Not all the time, but often. And it feels good to do the passionate thing. And it may not be monetary. It may not be something that makes you money. It might be something you just really enjoy and you bring into the world, and you still have a day job doing whatever else it is. But this thing you do passionately is something you do on weekends or in the evenings, or you take a week off in the summer to do. We have a friend who, his dad, for some reason, every summer would take the family for a few weeks to an Indian reservation, a Native American reservation in the Southwest United States, to give his family experience in the Native American culture. And he was passionate about taking his family. He had a regular job, but he took his family to the Native American reservation, I guess, in the 1960s, 70s, somewhere in that range, because he was passionate about going and visiting reservations,
exposing them to new cultures.
Exposing them to cultures that were very different from the culture they were living in New England. And it was like this really interesting passion he had to taking his family and exposing them to this. And that wasn't part of necessarily his day job per se, but it was something he did in the summers. So, this idea of passion is something that can be part of your life regardless if it's your career. Now, in the context of career, this model you were talking about, this BHAG model, can you break that down more of like some of the questions that people ask? Or
So, I'm not going to talk about the BHAG model.
Sure, not all of it, but
yeah.
around this idea of
because
passion.
I'd like to talk about that
Sure.
in the future. You mean passion, purpose, mission?
Yeah, passion, purpose, mission.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because this idea that you don't have to make money from your passion, that's absolutely true. And also, I encourage people to think in terms of being able to do that, being able to make their livelihood, around their passion. Like the person who took their family to an Indian reservation every summer, it is entirely possible to set up so that they can run a nonprofit that assists others to be able to do the same. So there's lots of creative ways in the modern world to be able to monetize whatever your passion is. You don't have to, but it's definitely within our grasp. And so, you called passion an emotion. I called it a cluster of emotions, but I definitely think emotion is a component to it. And so, so emotion is definitely the big piece. It's how it's making you feel. Then I think that people graduate from passion into purpose. Now, I think the big difference between passion and purpose, and oftentimes they don't graduate into purpose until they have monetized their passion. So that's why I want to encourage people to start seeing things in terms of, maybe I could make money from the thing that I love doing. Maybe I can make my living from the thing I'm passionate about. Maybe not even just make a living, but actually be able to have like sort of a sustainable life of abundance through my passion. Which basically, is, making a really good, salary from your passion, not just something that allows you to live paycheck to paycheck. And I think when people do that, when they rest into the fact that they've got their resource piece handled, that they don't really have to be thinking about living from paycheck to paycheck, I think that people have a tendency to naturally, once they've lived a passion lifestyle, graduate onto this concept of purpose. And purpose isn't just how you're impacting the things around you. Purpose is, why are you here? Like, what is your point in being on this planet? Now, you don't have to have a point in being on the planet. I think that that's all thoroughly subjective. And yet at the same time, our minds wander to, what is it that I'm here to do? What is it that how am I supposed to leave the camp better than when I got here? So it's not just doing the thing that you love and has an impact. It's, how am I contributing? Right? Like, how is my impact part of contribution? And oftentimes when people go through a purpose time period, it's very introspective. It's kind of getting into sort of the inner part of who they are and why they feel like, their being alive has value to the greater good. And so monetizing your purpose is now, that's a scale up moment, because monetizing your passion, that's tough already, right? That's already difficult to do, to figure out what your passion is and monetize it. Now monetizing your purpose, your contribution, that's an even bigger thing. And we actually see, again, in the modern world, sort of these amalgam business models of the for-profit nonprofit. I'm not even sure what they call them, but they're basically like charities and things that give back, and like they're contribution business styles, but they're not nonprofits anymore. They're for-profits, and they're getting a lot of attention because they're working like gangbusters.
Like Tom Shoes.
Exactly, like Tom Shoes.
You buy a pair of shoes, they send shoes to people who can't afford shoes in other countries
Yep.
every time you buy a pair of shoes.
That's right. So the business model is around contribution, and it's also monetizing it. And that's a purpose model, right? Like, what am I here for? I'm here to put shoes on people's feet, right? And that's a noble goal, right? So yeah, so we see people graduating to a sense of purpose. Well, the only problem with purpose is that it can be a little like when people go through this introspective time period of purpose, they can sort of go to many different streams, right? Like they're not always real focused on one thing. And I believe when somebody discovers what it is that they're here for, truly here for, and they want to be a thought leader, when they want to not just be doing their purpose and monetizing their purpose, but really actually leading others to do the same, then they graduate onto this concept of mission, right? Mission is, you're a light bearer. You've got a lot of attention. Now people are following you as a thought leader model. And I see this, I see this with a couple different businesses, that they're not just their own business, but they're also opening up components like child businesses that are there entirely to teach other businesses how to do what they do.
Sure.
And that's them sort of, carrying the torch. That's them being a light bearer, and others flow to them. And that's turning it into mission. So all the way along through all of this, we have a combination of emotion, which is I'm doing the thing that I was meant to do. I'm doing the thing that I love doing. I'm doing the thing that makes the camp better than when I got here. And it's also thoughtful. It's also in alignment with what I think is important. It's introspective. I've really reached down deep inside of me, and I'm going to strategize it in this way. I'm going to bring it to the world in a thoughtful way that has other people wanting to follow. And that's what I call the passion, purpose, mission model. And I don't see a lot of people at the point of mission. In fact, it's very rare to see people at the point of mission. Yeah. I see some people at the point of purpose, and I see a lot more people entering the passion components. But mission is tougher. It's tougher for people to get to that point because, of course, they've got to go through passion and purpose. And yet when people get to the point of mission, now we really see some big things shaken up. Now we really see some global impact and contribution.
Yeah. I think you and I have been watching some business profiles. There's this Netflix series of business profiles, and we had a conversation about this a couple days ago, and we've been having kind of an ongoing conversation off air about this notion that we were watching something about
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, yeah. We were noticing. I made this comment to you. I said, if you notice, super successful people that have achieved a lot in their lives have not just been focused on themselves and what their career is. They haven't just been focused on their business and what their business will bring to the world, but they've been focused on their industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that falls in purpose or mission, probably the purpose level, but they're for example, Warren Buffett is interested in Wall Street in general and the financial system in general and taxes and how the government works with money in general. He's not just worried about making Warren Buffett rich and Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, rich and wealthy. He's actually also interested in the broader concepts. We think about Tony Hsieh at Zappos in Las Vegas. He's revolutionizing the downtown, and he's going to his friends in Silicon Valley. He was a maven. He moved from Silicon Valley, his technology company, down to Vegas, and now he's trying to get his friends to move down also. He's interested in the industry as a whole. He's looking for cheaper, faster, better ways to do things and moving people down into Vegas and creating an ecosystem there for incubators and startups and VC funding and all of this cool stuff in Las Vegas. He's focused on an industry and on a city. He's got a bigger mindset. And I'm noticing that this is how successful people think. Richard Branson's another example. He's gathered a group of men together, men and women together, called the Elders, where they're tackling global issues, other big business leaders, and they're coming together to try to strategize, how can we deal with things like AIDS in Africa? How can we deal with things like global warming? And this notion that there's a level you get to where the rising tide raises all ships. You're focused on not only your success, but what other people consider your competitors' success and the industry success as a whole, because you want to see everyone succeed. Mm-hmm. And this is really exciting to see this coming online in this generation, I think, of business people and what things are happening and how we're able to now make bigger impacts by co-creating this stuff at an industry level.
Yeah.
That's probably falling in more, it's kind of a hybrid between the purpose and mission level. Mm-hmm. It depends on where those are, but I think that's really exciting to see. And I'm noticing again and again, successful people are concerned about the industries they're involved in.
And for the quote unquote common person, for the basic person who might be listening to this podcast, that feels like something that other people do. That feels like something that big businesses do and not them. And yes, that's true because big businesses have massive resources to be able to pour into it. By the same token, they all started with the question, what do I want to do? Right? Like, what's my passion? So the question of figuring out what your passion is and then determining to monetize it, to turn it into your career, maybe your own entrepreneurial business, that's the first step to getting to that big game, right? Like, these are all the steps that get you to playing those big games of really being able to make massive contribution. So the question of what's my passion and how do I do wealth creation through it is no small question. Right? I mean, it's not a small question or something that other people get to do and not you, right? Like this is now becoming a democratized question more and more, especially for those of us fortunate enough to be born in developed countries, right? Like we have luxuries that nobody on the planet has ever seen before. And this is one of those luxuries. It's a privilege of ours to be able to ask ourselves, what is my passion? And so I think it's no small question. I think it's an important question that every person should be asking themselves, especially if the concept of contribution at any point, right? At any point in the future, if the concept of contribution is near and dear to your heart, this is where it starts, is what is my passion? So I wanted to share on this podcast a series of questions that when I do what I call my BHAG coaching, or when I do coaching around, figuring out what your passion in life is, these are the three questions that I help my clients navigate through. And we sit down and we like really mull over them and we turn them into kind of a big deal for us. And we really think about it and we really ruminate over it for the client. And yet it's still three very simple questions. So I just want to share those three questions with people and maybe they can run with it and spend some time journaling or spend some time really thinking about them. But these are the three questions. The first one is, what subject do you love so much that if you're in a restaurant and the next table over is filled with people talking about this thing, you love the subject so much that you will go over and interrupt their conversation to be able to join them? Right? Yeah. So what subject do you love so much that you cannot stop yourself from wanting to talk about it, even with strangers? So that's the first question. The second question is, what challenge or problem have you solved that you want to share the solution with other people so much so that if somebody in a restaurant was talking about this problem and that they can't seem to figure it out, that you want to share the solution so much with them that you will interrupt their conversation to be able to share it? Yeah. All right, so that's the second question. And the third question is, pretend you had a microphone in front of you, and for 10 minutes, the entire planet had to stop everything they were doing, and listen to you for 10 minutes. You got 10 minutes to talk to the entire planet. What would you say? What is the highest leverage information? What do you think is the most important message to deliver to the entire planet? And when you can answer all three of those questions, it's the access point of all three of those where you'll find your passion. Yeah. It's the access point of the thing you're the most interested in, the challenge or problem that you solved that you want to share with the world, and the highest leverage single idea that you would like the entire world to take into consideration. And when you've got the access point of all three of those, it is generally your passion within them. And my observation has been that when I do passion coaching with people, it doesn't take long for us to figure out what theirs is. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take long because people know. The question isn't, what is it? The question is, do you have permission to identify it? Yeah. And a lot of times we don't think we do. We're almost afraid to figure out what our passion is. We're afraid to figure it out because if we figured it out, now we're responsible to it. And what if the thing we want to do is not easily monetized, right? Yeah. So a lot of times it's not even a matter of finding it. Most of the time we find it pretty quick. It's a question of, do we have permission, now that we know what it is, do we have permission to follow that passion? And that's usually the sticking point. In most coaching, that is usually the moment where people need the most assistance. I found in my life and some other people's lives that I've talked to that it's not a matter of, man, I just don't know what passion. They feel like they've got so many passions they don't know what to decide upon. Have you seen this with people? Mm-hmm. So in other words, like for me, I've gone down different kind of dead ends. I'm like, oh, this is something I think I'm passionate about. I go down, I'm experiencing it,
And I don't think I would have known that it's something I didn't want to do or that I did want to do until I experienced it. And as I go down these avenues and experience it, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this is really what I want to be doing. And so I'm like, okay, but this thing, this bright, shiny object over here looks great. So I'll go chase that. And then it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Is this what I'm passionate about? Is this what I really want to be doing? And I don't know if that's me, in my life up until this point, not knowing where I actually, like being what you just said, scared of finding what it is because then I'm responsible to it. So I'm distracting myself with shiny objects. Or if I really don't know, because I know, we talk about personality types or personality hacker, different personality types have a different way of doing that. And part of my personality is I like to explore. I like to, and I like to feel through something and I perform through it. And as I'm in the midst of something, I kind of know whether it's right for me or not. Mm-hmm. Like as I'm doing something, it becomes clear what's right for me personally as my passion and my pursuits. And so if you're an audience, if you're listening and this is something for you, don't freak out about that. Keep exploring, keep going down different avenues and learn from each experience. And I've been doing this, and I think the more I've done this, the more I kind of understand already that things might appeal to me, but I already know ahead of time that if I go down that road, it's not going to get very far. Even though it looks bright and shiny right now, it's going to tarnish very quickly, and I know that it's just not going to pan out. Just from experience now in my life going through that. Have you had some similar experience?
Well, I remember coaching somebody actually of your personality type that had the same thing going on, and one of the things that we focused on in coaching with him was he being authentic as a person himself. One of the reasons why he had so many different ideas of what he wanted to do was because he hadn't rested. He wasn't living an authentic life for himself.
Yes.
Yeah, like he himself was in a context that was not fully authentic to him. And so that's a big piece of it too, because passion is very much a part of the concept of inner alignment.
Yes.
Like you know what you want to be doing because every fiber of your being screams it. If you are living a situation or a context that is not authentic for you, right? Like if your entire circumstance around you is out of alignment, there are parts of you that are just totally distracted by keeping up the ruse, so to speak, even if you're not aware of it. If there are parts of you that are fully invested in keeping up the ruse, they're not going to be able to be a part of the course that says, yes, we're all in alignment on this particular passion. So a big piece of the work that needs to be done before finding your passion is making sure that you are fully in alignment with yourself, that you're not living a lie, that you don't have any cognitive dissonance going on, that you are not out of self-ownership. Right? That you are part of, as we've referenced in earlier podcasts, that you're the person who's looking at the GPS to pre-program it so that you've not handed or outsourced that to other people. Because if you're living out of alignment, if you're basically living a lie, which my observation is a lot of people are in some component, some capacity, regardless of whether or not they recognize it. But if you're living out of alignment, if you're kind of living in cognitive dissonance or a lie, it's going to be almost impossible to find your passion.
Yeah.
You are going to passion leap because you're looking for something that is both 100% fully in alignment with you and also will match the circumstances around you that you are unwilling to change. And nothing's going to qualify because those two things aren't in alignment with each other.
I think in full circle now to when we started the podcast, I talked about this concept of we ask kids, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I think that there is a magic in that question at the core. And I think it's what do you want to be when you grow up? We're insinuating a career choice or something you want to be like doing. That's kind of what we're asking. A better question to ask would be, who do you want to be when you grow up?
Totally.
Because I think it's more about who you are is really the passionate part because it's going to influence everything. I mean, we're talking about career right now or business right now, but think about what is the passionate relationship you're going to have in a romantic context or relationships. What's the passion you're going to bring to your children if you decide to have children or if you have children already? What passion are you going to bring to your community? And it really depends. I think this piggybacks off what you just said. It piggybacks off that inner alignment of who are you? And it's not a static thing like who are you and that's your definition forever. It's who are you being each day? Because you're Tonying, you're not just Antonia, you're Antoniaing and I'm Joeling. We're living out life and we're dynamic, we're changing every day. But that passion of our core, what are we passionate about? What are our core values? I believe will bring passion to the table. I believe it'll bring that cluster of emotions like you talked about, that a strong emotion I talked about. And I think it'll tie everything together, and then those career choices or romantic choices will just naturally, what you do will naturally fall from who you are.
Yeah.
So it's really about who you are.
I think there's a reason why the concept of know thyself is so ancient. Like this philosophical imperative of know thyself is such a big piece of what's been time bound and passed down for hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of years. It's because the one thing you can't get away from is yourself. You should be creating a lifelong love affair with yourself. And your passion should be inclusive of who you're becoming, who you are, who you've been, and who you're becoming. Full, total self-acceptance and then constant improvement. At least that's a piece that I want to bring to the table. Not everybody does, and that's fine. That's their choice. But knowing who you are and being real and honest with who you are, loving that person enough to be able to be authentic with your circumstances and situation, and then loving that person enough to position them to have a really rewarding life and career, and then loving other people. When you love yourself, it's kind of easy to start spreading that to others through contribution. I think that's kind of how the formula works. That's the recipe for the cake. So yeah, inner alignment, personal passion, passion with your mate, passion with your children, passion with the career you choose, etc. Again, these are privileges we have in the modern world that people in the past did not have as, on the level that we do. And if they did, they were very rare. This has been democratized, which is wonderful. And so let's take advantage of it, right? Let's utilize this. Let's go. Yeah, we have it. We have abilities that people in the past have never had. So let's do it, right? And then those people on the planet right now that don't have this luxury or privilege, let's do what we can to extend it to them. So yeah, I think. Hopefully, we answered the question. But in an encapsulation, that's how I personally would define finding your passion.
I see these podcast episodes as not you and I having all the answers, and we write our answers on stone tablets and send them down to the people. This is a discussion starter. I mean, we posit some ideas, we have some exercises. Those 3 questions are great, and I'd like to invite people to come over to our website, personalityhacker.com, answer those 3 questions for yourself. We'll probably have a discussion on Facebook also. And you're really smiling at me. What are you smiling about?
Oh, I got this picture of like
us with big white beards chiseling things in stone, or what?
Oh, Personality Hacker Podcast. Please, we beseech you to give us answers. Please bestow upon us your wisdom in thy mercy. Amen.
Amen.
I just got this that popped up for me. I wasn't gonna say it because
Well, I think it's good.
All right.
Because that's how you really feel. That's authentic to you.
That's how the brain works. I haven't been able to stop it so far.
I'd love to hear what you have come up for passion for yourself, and if you're kind of working through some of those questions Antonia mentioned, leave a comment. Answer those questions. Let us know how you define passion. Is it an emotion? Is it something that you cognitively understand? Where do you stand with this? I'd love to get a discussion going about the passion that you're going to bring to the world, whether it's business or whatever. Let us know.
And if you are living your passion, what was the formula you used to be able to find it?
Yes.
Let's crowdsource a little bit. Let's help other people find their passions by understanding those who have found theirs already and how they went about it.
Absolutely. So personalityhacker.com. You can find us on facebook.com/personalityhacker, twitter.com/personalityhack. And we will be talking to you next time. This is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
For the Personality Hacker Podcast.
See you next time.
Bye.